The gospel reading this morning comes from the gospel according to John chapter 9, the first 7 verses. John 9, verses 1 through 7. As Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the works of God may be displayed in him. As long as it is day, you must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spit on the ground and made some mud with the saliva, and he put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told them, "wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed, and he came home seeing. Please pray with me. Lord Jesus, we live in a world that is so often covered by darkness. The darkness of pain, the darkness of death, the darkness of sin. Help us, Lord, to be a light in the midst of that darkness. Open us to the power of your Holy Spirit so that we might be conformed to Christ's likeness, so that we might encourage folks to come back, be redeemed sons and daughters of the King of the universe, loving Heavenly Father. So, Lord, with that, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be found loving and acceptable to you. You, Lord, are our rock and our Redeemer. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Who here has heard of Tim Hawkins? He's a Christian comedian, and he has a bit about what happens to us when we have small children and their toys. And he opens it up by saying, okay, ladies, I will give it to you. Having childbirth is clearly the most painful thing a human being can endure. But we may at least agree on one thing. Let's agree that what comes in a close second is stepping on the floor with a Lego in the middle of the night. Ouch, that hurts. I mean, you're getting up in the middle of the night, you're getting a drink of water or something, and all of a sudden, what happened? It's almost like our kids at night while we're sleeping are sharpening the Legos. This will cripple them for a month. It hurts, right? And I think part of the reason why it hurts so bad, or at least maybe part of the reason why it is so disorienting, is because we weren't expecting it. We are literally in the dark. And isn't this also true? Maybe even more true. When we are blindsided by something that is spiritually or emotionally painful. Out of nowhere, our boss comes up to us and says, "I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go." Or even worse, we get that phone call that is every parent's worst nightmare. "I'm sorry, your child was in an accident." In those moments, we feel the darkness around us, right? In those moments, we feel like the darkness is going to overcome us. But the good news is that Jesus is the light of the world, and the darkness has not overcome him. And if we trust in him, we can become children of the light. And the darkness will not overcome us either. This morning, we're continuing our series on a devotional book called A Disciple's Journal. In this journal, it gives daily scripture readings for us along certain themes. The theme that they've chosen for Lent this year is remembering our baptismal calling, or living out our baptismal calling. In order to do that, we are considering a vow that is associated with baptism every week. And the one that we're taking a look at this week actually isn't made by or for the person being baptized. It's made by the congregation that the person's being baptized into. Here it is. Why don't we go ahead and say it together? "We will nurture one another in the Christian faith and life, and include these persons now before us in our care." So, how do we become a congregation that nurtures people in order to become children of the light? How do we become children of the light? What is it that Jesus has to do in us for us to become children of the light? What does Jesus have to do for us so that we may grow as children of the light? And finally, what does Jesus do through us so we may invite others in? To answer these questions, we're going to consider what Jesus, the light of the world, does in us, to us, or for us, and through us. So what does Jesus being the light of the world do in us so that we might become children of the light? In order to answer this question, I want to consider the reaction that the Pharisees had to this man who was born blind being healed. After the passage that I read this morning, what happens is that a group of this guy's neighbors takes him to the Pharisees, and the Pharisees wig out over this because Jesus healed this blind man on the Sabbath. They broke one of their rules. The shock, the horror. John, in his telling of the story, as he's narrating, he says that these people were so jealous of Jesus, they said, anyone who says Jesus is the Messiah, we're going to kick him out of the synagogue. So scandalized they were over Jesus healing this man during the Sabbath that they drugged this guy's parents in to interrogate him and say, was he really born blind? And sure enough, the parents confirmed the story. Yes, he was born blind. So this guy is brought back in, and they ask him the second time, what happened? What did this man, meaning Jesus, do to you? How did he open your eyes? And this guy gets a little snarky, which maybe is why I like him so much. Because he says to him, I already told you what he did. Why are you asking me that? I mean, do you want to become his disciples too? To say that they reacted poorly to this would be an understatement. They freaked out and they kicked him out of the synagogue. When they kicked him out of the synagogue, Jesus heard about it and went to the man. And as a comfort to this man who's been born blind and as a jab to the Pharisees, Jesus says to this man who's been healed, he says that I have come so that those who are blind can see and those who see will become blind. Well, perceiving the very obvious jab, the Pharisees say, what do you mean? Are you saying we're blind? And Jesus says, those who are blind don't have any guilt of their sin, but because you claim that you can see, your sin remains. In other words, he's saying, your blindness is far worse than physical blindness. The darkness within you has blinded you to God's work in this world. A man has been healed, and all you can do is freak out over whether he was healed on the Sabbath. Why can't you be happy for him? I mean, it makes me want to shake my fist at them and say, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you that you have so much darkness in your heart you can't be happy for this guy? And as I'm shaking my fist at him, I realize I'm shaking my fist at a mirror. Out of my sense of control, out of my sense of self-righteousness, out of my sense of wanting to keep within my comfort zone, how often does the darkness within me make me completely blind to what God is doing in this world? What does Jesus do in us? He's the light of the world. He lights up the darkness within our hearts. And he shows us those places where our selfishness, our desire for control, our desire to be important, has blinded us to his light and his love. D.C. Talk wrote a song called In the Light. Part of it goes like this. The disease of self runs through my blood. It's a cancer fatal to my soul. Every attempt on my behalf has failed to bring the sickness under control. Tell me what's going on inside of me. I despise my own behavior. This only serves to confirm my suspicions that I am still a man in need of a Savior. What does Christ's light do in us? Paul tells the Ephesians that his light wakens us up from our spiritual slumber. As Christ's light shines in us, showing us where we need to surrender to him. What does he do for us, or what does he do to us in order for us to become children of the light? Let's consider the blind man's response to being healed. After Jesus heals this man, like I said before, the Pharisees begin interrogating him. What happened? How did this happen? And eventually the guy just says, because the Pharisees want the man to say that Jesus was a sinner because he healed on the Sabbath. And what the blind man ended up saying is, whether this guy's a sinner or not, I do not know. All I do know is that once I was blind, but now I see. Sounds like something that should be put in a song, doesn't it? Anyway, Jesus is saying, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think of this man. All I know is that he has made me whole. All I know is he has healed me. What does Christ do in us? He heals us. He heals our brokenness. He restores God's image within us. He enables us to become children of the light. What's interesting is as we follow this man's story, who used to be blind, he becomes more and more dedicated to Christ as he is questioned. First, he calls Jesus this man who healed him. And then when the Pharisees question him, the formerly blind man says, this man's a prophet. And then finally, when he meets Jesus face to face, he calls him Lord and bows down and worships him. In other words, the hardship and the pressure did not drive him away from Jesus, but right into Jesus' arms. I think this is part of what Paul was getting at when writing to the Ephesians, saying that once you were darkness, but now you are light. So live as children of the light. What Christ does in us is he heals us, he transforms us, he enables us to live as children of the light. So the question is, how do children of the light relate to the darkness? Remember, this whole episode began with the disciples asking Jesus a question. Was this man born blind? Or was it his sin, or was his parents' sin that caused this man to be born blind? Why did this happen? Why, Lord, do things, yes, even things more painful than stepping on a Lego, happen in our lives? Who here's asked that question? Why do all these hurtful things happen? Is that it? I ask it all the time. It's a question that haunts us. But interestingly enough, Jesus doesn't answer that question. Instead, he directs them toward a different question. Instead of why is this happening, Jesus directs them towards the question, how can God use this? And I pondered this a lot because the question why is important, isn't it? I mean, doctors need to know why an illness happened in order to cure an illness. You see, that's not what the disciples were asking. And if we were honest, that's not what we're asking either. Why, God, don't you zap into my brain magically everything that had to happen in order for you to allow a situation of pain or evil into my life? That's what we're asking. Why don't you just zap it into my brain so I can know it all? And I can think of at least two reasons why God doesn't do this. First of all, it would kind of turn the universe into a haunted house of horrors, wouldn't it? I mean, every time you stepped on a Lego, every single event from the beginning of the universe zaps into your brain magically. I mean, it'd be kind of freaky. But here's the second reason. Even if we did know why, would it really help us anyway? I mean, whether a loved one of ours is killed because they are murdered, an abuse of free will that we can't explain, or they die of cancer, which we can't explain, the one that we love is still gone. So Jesus said the reason why this man was born blind is so that the work of God may be known in his life. What Jesus is saying is that what he does for us is he takes those wounds and he enables them to heal. Because when wounds heal, they become scars. They're scars that tell a story. They tell a story of God who desperately and earnestly wants people to come back into a saving relationship with him. A God who wants to bring hope to the hopeless, healing to the brokenhearted, and new life to those who are dead. The story of what Christ does through us. So what does Jesus want to do through us? What does any of this have to do with nurturing each other in the Christian faith? I'm so glad that you asked. In Matthew 5, Jesus refers to his followers as the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now, why would Jesus use these analogies? It is because salt and light do not exist for their own sake. Salt in that time was used to preserve and to flavor food, and light is used to dispel darkness. They don't exist for their own sake. So how do we nurture people and invite them into a saving relationship with Jesus? We realize that we as the church do not exist for our own sake. We exist so that we can be children of the light, shining His light into a world that is so often hurting, broken, and lost, a world covered in darkness. So how does Jesus want to shine through you? How does He want to shine through me? How? By our teachings and the way we live, can others be drawn into His love, drawn into His grace? We do it by reflecting His love. We do it by shining like the moon. So brothers and sisters, as we depart here today, let us depart as children of the light. Children who will welcome what Jesus will do in us, showing us those areas of our lives where we need to surrender to Him. Welcoming what Jesus does for us, transforming us, turning us into children of the light, and then having Christ's light shine through us. Just as the moon reflects the brilliance of the sun, we as children of the light reflect His light and love, reflecting Christ's light so that others might come out of darkness and by His grace become children of the light. Please pray with me. Lord Jesus, send your Holy Spirit so that your light may shine in us, so that your healing may come to us, and your light may shine through us. We pray these things in your precious and holy name. Amen. Receive this blessing and this benediction. Let us go forth, children of the light, welcoming Christ's light in us as it brings healing to us and shines through us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, you may go in peace.